everybody. I am loaded up this morning and I am heading over to Grant's. As promised, we are going to tear out the transmission this morning, and I am going to show you that entire process. So let's get going. I'm super excited.
So what happens is the fluid inside this torque converter, when you start the vehicle, it'll pump fluid into that converter and fill it up. So, but as it sits, like in your garage and for days or weeks at a time, that fluid will drain back and it'll actually overfill the pan. And so that's why, like if you pulled the dipstick right now, it would show probably it's over full.
Yeah.
But and then this will start leaking. This won't hardly ever leak when it's running because the fluid level's down here. But as it sits and that converter drains back, that fluid will come up, and then it'll leak around there, and a lot of times around like this where the shifter's at.
Yep.
Which all those seals will get replaced with the rebuild kit. And then there's your dipstick where it goes into the case. There's an O-ring on it that'll leak, and there's an updated dipstick. It uses like a grommet. It looks like a little hat that you stick in there, and it uses a different kind of dipstick tube, and those never ever leak. So we may upgrade that too, just so that we don't ever have to worry about that.
Problems.
So
that's exactly what it's showing. It's showing full every single time I've checked it to like take it out. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you, like I say, when you start it, the fluid level will go down, obviously, but it'll probably show if you were to let it sit a week or two and pull the dipstick, it's going to show that it's really full.
Yes.
Like over full.
Yes, that's exactly what it's been doing.
So that's why it's doing what it's doing.
Yes.
It's got some leaks above your where your fluid level should be, but that's just because the converter's draining back. So one thing that can help resolve that is sometimes the converter's worn enough to where it drains back, and then there's also bushings that we're going to replace that are in the front pump.
Okay.
That by having a tighter tolerance, it won't allow fluid to drain back.
Okay.
So that can help that as well.
Okay.
So that doesn't happen.
You know, when we first like put this transmission in this car, like this torque converter here, it like did this squawking noise, and it was like whining. It was like, you know, and like real whiny. And then it quit like whining. And so I always wondered if it was bad, you know, when we first put it in here.
How are you? Good. It should be run right now. This is a flywheel or a flex plate turning wrench, so we don't have to turn it from the dampener. We can actually turn it right here on the flex plate. So there's 3 bolts in this that holds this torque converter to the flex plate. And we've got one that was loose because the last 2 were tight. Watch this.
Unbelievable.
It shouldn't do that until the 3rd one's out. No, it wouldn't be a problem until it backed out all the way, because then it can actually like scrape on the oil pan or on the back of the block and cause an engine oil leak. You can see. And I think probably the problem is that it's the wrong fastener. it's probably too long. So if see how it felt like it was tight,
Yes.
but it bottomed out because the bolt's too long. But you can buy them. So see how he's got. Somebody's put a washer on that to make it shorter, and they didn't on that one. It was too long. That's why it bottomed out. So it's just as important to you know, when you're taking stuff apart, to be paying attention than when
what you're
even more
doing,
putting it back together. It's just as important, so you catch stuff before that happens. So before the rear drive shaft out of it next. Stick it back in park. That way we can loosen those nuts back there and not have to hold the drive shaft. Now that they're all broke loose, I'll stick it in the back of the neutral so we can turn it and get to everything. Careful when you pull this out not to lose your E-joint caps and all your needles fall out. That's always fun. Usually when you pull this out, you'll lose some fluid. But it's
minimal.
The nice thing about these older cars is really pretty simple hand tools, you know. Just your common sockets and wrenches and maybe a pair of pliers and a screwdriver or something. You can pretty much do about anything.
All these fancy tools.
All this new stuff has, you know, get your scanner out and computer before you even think about
For real.
working on it.
Exactly.
So it's kind of nice for a change. Much simpler times and
For sure.
better.
I had to take my 2013 Ford Explorer over to Justin just to change the battery because he had to hook up his snap-on tool just to reprogram.
Oh yeah.
My front because it's got all that new stuff on it. Yeah.
Right. Spacer go. Oh, I dropped it. Oh, those are just a spacer for your shifter because of the pan rail. So like an aftermarket pan that's aluminum pan, which are nice because they hardly ever leak. They're a lot thicker, and then you don't use that spacer.
Okay.
So. You can see your mount. That's another bad thing about that. When that speedometer leaks, there's a rubber mount right there, and it deteriorates that rubber. It's not really oil resistant, and it'll just turn to mush. But they're really cheap to replace, so we'll do that too while we're there. It'll be real easy to do. So you knew my first car was my 70 Chevelle.
Yes.
And that's how I learned to do transmissions, is with it. Because when we bought it, it had a bad transmission, or shortly after we bought it, it did. My dad and I. And so that's kind of how I got started, is we bought a book and went through it. And I can remember laying on my back and on jack stands pulling a transmission. So
you're on the floor. Yeah.
This is a lot different.
Yes.
Pulling one out on the lift out of one of these.
And you're just a kid when you got yours too, right?
I was
You're 14. Yeah.
I'm 40 now. So.
Yep. That's what age I was when I got this one. I was 14. Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember Dad had that convenience store at Speedy's here in Girard at the four-way stop. And I can remember I'd go up there, and I couldn't wait for the new week of Auto Trader, when the Auto Trader magazine, and I would go through that and look for, I was wanted that 70 Chevelle.
Yes.
And I can remember looking through that and just dreaming and wishing, and then one day one popped up in Pittsburgh, not from the Auto Trader, but just sitting on the side of the road, and that's the one that I thought we ended up getting.
This car came from Carson's, and I only paid $2,400 back for it.
Right.
Back in the day, simple times when we were kids.
Right.
You wouldn't be able to pick one up like this,
Oh,
now.
No, not at all. No, they come out of the hedgerows all rusted.
Oh
for more
yeah.
than that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How long did you have you had this engine in here, you think?
I put this engine in 2005 when I was a senior. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh. It's about 20 years. Yeah.
Obviously, you just dressed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Made it look a little nicer.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was just a recent thing.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was this nice green color that you see under
Right.
here.
Well, that's what made me think that you'd obviously done something.
Yeah. It's that nice lime green, that grabber green color when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I just thought that was the coolest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the thing when we were kids. I was like, oh, yeah, grabber green, like that's what I want,
So has the car hadn't always been the purple and white, has it?
So ever since I was a senior, it's been purple and white.
Okay, so you did that when you were
But when I bought it, it was 5 different colors. So it was gold and primer, gray primer, red primer. It had a white hardtop on it, and 5 different colors. But I thought it was cool as crap, driving it in school like that. And so I drove it like that all 4 years, going to school, and then painted it my senior year.
I got you.
And then purple and white, wanted to do that Starskin Hutch theme, right? Because I'm like, oh yeah, it's cool. I want to do purple and white.
Right. hoping. Slide this back far enough to get that training out of there without doing anything with the exhaust. That would be ideal. But I don't know if it's up. I might have to draw. Actually, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to drop that exhaust. Which he had said something. Justin said something about something not sealing up anyway, didn't he?
Oh, we did. We put new exhaust. We fixed the exhaust leak on the top here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that, yeah, it's got new donuts in it.
Mm-hmm. So we fixed all that.
They won't be hard to take loose.
No, it was easy to take off. So
Right.
yeah.
You must have a thing on your phone where it automatically texts me when you're close or something.
It does.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, because after the first one I
It does.
didn't think anything of it, and then
Yeah.
I got the second one. I go, oh, I bet you it's
It does.
yeah.
Yeah.
That way you're not on the phone when you're.
It does.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's pretty handy. Yeah.
No doubt. Keeps your hands free.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. I think we just have the cooler lines and the belt housing bolts, and we'll be good. I got a custom. No. Yeah, I never really drove mine to high school, hardly ever, my Chevelle.
You're more on the drag strip with yours, though, right?
We were kind of hot rodding it then.
Yeah.
So it was pretty fast.
But you said you had what engine in yours?
It is a 4D4.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yours didn't play.
No, and we ended up putting, you know, high compression pistons and stuff in it to where it had to be on like race gas. Or,
Yeah.
And so it really wasn't, I shouldn't say it wasn't streetable because it's still street legal, but it was just expensive to drive it because the fuel was so expensive.
Yeah.
So.
Did you drive anything cool to school?
I mean, I drove it a couple different days just, you know, for fun or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe 2 or 3 different days, but one day I got in trouble for doing burnouts, so that didn't happen after that. But
Dad was like, no go.
oh, it's more of a, you just, you know, you kind of you get something like that out and you want to show it off.
Yeah.
I knew that if I took it back, I would just do the same thing. So it was more my parents really, I mean, they weren't happy, but it was more of a thing that I probably just shouldn't do that. But no, I had a 94 Chevy extended cab half ton 2-wheel drive. Had the, you know, the fiberglass ground effects that run over the wheel wells and all down the, so it was like, you know, for the times it was a cool truck or whatever, but it was kind of it wasn't that dark green, but it wasn't the really light green. It was, I don't know what you'd call it, but it was a nice truck. I upgraded I put like a Vortec 350. It was because the 94 was just a TBI engine.
Yeah.
So they didn't make enough power to get out of their own way. I mean, it always ran good and sounded good, but it really wasn't that fast. And I found a Vortec 350 that had been blown up or something happened to it, and I kind of put the 2 engines together and made it a roller cam. But I still use the TBI heads, but it ran a lot better after that. But it's nice that these tube nuts are not rounded off. A lot of them have been in and out so many times, and they're not real easy to get to.
Yes.
And they'll be rounded off, and then you got to use vice grips to get the dang things loose. And at that point in time, I'll cut the end of the tube off and put a new tube nut on it.
I got lucky that this one's not rounded off.
No, they're in really good shape. The thing you do is using the right wrench or one that's not completely wore out, because it'll just continue to strip it off. So I need to, I forgot to unhook the TV cable or the kick down cable from up top, but I can do that on a ladder real quick.
Justin probably put that nice zip tie on there for you.
Yeah, it's probably to keep that starter wire away from the exhaust.
Yep.
So.
He's the zip tie king. He loves to put zip ties on.
Yeah. That's okay. This should be, there's 6 of them, should be the last of the, and then it'll be out. the angle. It doesn't like the swivel doesn't like the angle that it's at to get this thing loose. Now it should be good. Oh, this transmission's got what they call a universal bell housing on it. So it could actually be used for like a Chevrolet or a Pontiac or an Oldsmobile. I'll show you. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with them. In fact, they're a little bit heavier bell housing because they got more aluminum in them than the Chevrolet one.
When we do our burnouts, that's a good thing.
They're a little more resistant to flex, like if you're really getting on it and it's torqued up,
Yeah.
Or most of the time you break bell housings due to like driveline vibration or something most of the time, but definitely they're a little bit heavier than a normal, like a 350 or a turbo 350 Chevrolet bolt pattern.
Cool.
So it definitely wouldn't have came in this vehicle, but didn't you say that this engine came out of something?
It came out of a Suburban.
Oh, really? Okay. So
Yep.
the transmission, it didn't. It wouldn't have. It came out of some kind of.
And so I don't know what this transmission, because this transmission was already in the car.
Oh,
and
okay. Okay.
And so I don't know the history behind that, because I bought this car, in Carson's, and
Right.
so
Now,
I don't
when
know.
you said you bought it, did it have an engine in it then?
It did.
Oh, okay.
It had a little 267
Oh,
in it.
okay,
A little
okay.
teeny tiny little engine.
Probably made a whole whopping 95 horsepower.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
it wouldn't even spin the tires.
Yeah. Give her a little wiggle, and I think it's gonna be. Oh, they got a. It's okay. Make sure we don't rip that wire off there, which we did. We can fix it. That wire he had zip tied up there was he got snagged on something and pulled it out. We can fix it. Put it all back together. See how it's got the multiple bolt patterns?
Mm-hmm.
So like right there would be a, in there, we're not using those, but they'd be used on a, I don't know if it's a Buick or an automobile or One of the two. Pontiac, maybe. Okay. She's out and dirty. She won't look that ugly when we put it back in.
It's gonna look pretty when we put her back in. Nice and pretty.
Yeah, it's just spliced right here. That'll be easy to do with the transmission out. I just have to remember to do it before I put it back in. Pretty easy to do. It looks like a power feed probably for everything. So probably not a bad thing that came loose, because it wouldn't be fun driving down the road and that thing come loose. So we'll put a good splice in there and heat shrink it so you don't have problems with it. Cool. Fluid looks really good in it. Of course, if it leaks, you're probably always putting fluid in it too.
I know, I am. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Yeah, just set it right on. Thank you, sir. This is all homemade stuff that I've made to make it easier for me to work on. So
I like it.
almost like I knew that was coming.
Mm-hmm. You built this entire thing, Greg?
Just that little stand.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I built it in my old shop because I didn't have very much room
Yeah.
to work on stuff, so I may not work on it in the same location every time, as far as in the same area right here, because it may be filled up. So I made it kind of portable.
Yeah.
So I could move it around, and
Clever.
I just stuck with it. I've gotten so used to using it.
Yeah.
It works. So
Heck yeah.
it works for a lot of different transmissions too. This one, like turbo 350s, turbo 400s.
Heck yes.
700R.
Heck yes.
4L60, so a lot of the GM stuff. And you can see how nasty it's probably been leaking here, because you can see all the stuff that's stuck to it. So but it looks like that front seal has been replaced, but at one time it was definitely leaking. Yummy that looks. Looks like there's some metal shavings in it.
I do see.
So a bushing or bearing or something's going bad, but well, it'll all get cleaned up and inspected and replaced as necessary. There's always wear items that you always replace, but then some things, you know, you reuse, hard parts. This is an older style filter too. Not a typical 350, nothing wrong with it. I think they call that I think that's out of like a 250, but they're interchangeable. But not something you normally see on a turbo 350. Filter usually looks like that one laying around here. No, I got them. I know I've got them upstairs. I just don't have any down here. But they're more square. 350 filter is. I've got my 7/16 out, so I'm just going to home. Get a different one. There it is. Gotcha. This should be loose now. Yeah, there it goes. You can see the fluid start leaking out of it. Not to lose this little shifter link. And then we've got the kick down over here to get out. This is your front band servo piston. And behind this separator plate, I'm going to take it off next, will be those little metal check balls. They look like little BBs, or quarter-inch check balls. So depending on if this thing's had a shift kit or something in it, they'll delete them or
we're not using, you know, a lot of times, so I'm always careful so I know where they come out if we need to put them back in the same location. Being that we're probably gonna most definitely put a shift kit in this, because this looks like a stock separator plate.
Yep.
Most of them are anodized or you know, gold irrited, plated, or whatever. It'll kind of designate that it's been modified, but I don't think this one's ever been done. Okay, so you see one check ball, and usually there's one here at the modulator. I don't see it. So they've just got the one check ball in it. It looks like most of them always have two. Usually there's always one here next to the modulator, and it may have dropped in here when we pulled apart, so when we drain that, we'll confirm that, but we didn't lose one. It's still kind of draining, so we'll drain that in a little bit. So here's a little filter, so when we tip it up, we don't lose it. And usually there's a filter right here for the governor. It's a little plastic screen, basically. Yep, see? Go ahead and pull this check ball out. Oh, there's not one there. Huh. See, there's a location here. There could be one, but there's not. Oh, you know what? This thing's got two filters in it for some reason.
Huh.
That's weird. That's not common. They must have really wanted to keep that one clean. Sometimes if you get a little piece of trash in that governor, it'll stick and then it'll shift. That's why they put those filters in there.
Huh.
But not common that both holes are got filters in them. Do some digging on this. You can pop this pump, put a little pressure on that back plate. Yeah, she's dirty. Dirty girl. This is just an O-ring. It seals the pump to the case. It always, anything paper or rubber gets replaced, there won't be anything. And that thing kind of hard. It's pretty hard.
Yeah, I wonder
Usually
how long that's been on there.
you can grab them. I can grab them with my fingers a lot of times and take them off like a rubber band, but this thing is pretty hard. See, it even broke.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty brittle. It's real brittle at the bottom.
Wow.
See,
Yep.
it should be. It should be like a rubber band.
Oh my goodness.
Like, here's a small one, but see how
Yes.
that other one's just real. That won't help the leaks at all either. You know.
Oh
so
yeah.
Definitely needed to be
Oh yeah. It
resealed.
was definitely time for a transmission.
Yep.
Well, like I told you, it's been leaking forever.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's gonna be so nice to leak out.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna know what to do with myself.
Right. So we'll get back over here and start pulling internals out. That's what's crazy to see. That's still pulled out in one piece, but that's just your front pump gasket. So these are your intermediate clutches. They are applied only in second gear. You can see they look pretty. These are typically not a big worn item on a 350. And they do look really good. They're old, obviously, but they're not.
They look okay.
Completely burn up and smoke. So far so good. We've got lots of parts that we can work with so far. So here's that band I was talking about. It'll usually pull out with this drum. So in that first video that we made, I mentioned, and here's the intermediate band, by the way. So that's only really used when you're like doing engine braking.
Okay.
So like if you have it in drive, this is never applied. So if you pulled it like into second or first,
Yeah.
this will apply.
Okay.
So that's why when you let off the gas and it's in first or second,
Yeah.
you can, it'll kind of decelerate, bring down the engine.
Yes.
That's because this band is applied.
Okay.
So, anyway, on that first video that we did, I talked about a hardened, like a outer race.
Yes.
This is a really weak point in the 350, and a really simple upgrade is a hardened race. That Sonax makes a really nice outer race for this that's very reliable, much more reliable than the stock one. So
This is what we're gonna beef up right
this
here.
is one of the items, yeah.
Okay.
So I think what they see, there's little oil holes in there,
Yes.
and they'll always break right there through an oil hole for
Okay.
whatever reason. Because if you notice, this only spins one direction. So that's what a sprag does. It only spins in one direction. So what happens is these little rollers, they'll push back to freewheel,
Yeah.
and then they'll run up on these ramps, and basically it wedges itself. So when it wedges, it'll just split, almost like a wood splitter. It'll just,
Okay.
because of all the wedges. So
Yes.
the way that Sonax, they space these differently than the factory, so that none of these rollers can touch at the same time, like those holes. Because that's
Okay.
what happens if it gets lined up just perfectly. It'll.
It will splice. Gotcha.
So
Cool.
that's an upgrade that we'll definitely do. So this comes off of this drum, but some drums, this inner race is not replaceable. It's made onto that drum. So another thing that we'll do is this bushing right here. See how narrow it is?
Yes.
We'll go in and put a wider bushing in there, so it takes up this whole area, and it keeps that drum from wobbling when it's running. It keeps it more true
Okay.
when you're driving it.
Okay. Cool.
So this is your direct clutch pack, so it's on in reverse and in third gear. So we'll take a look and see what kind of shape it's in. So you can kind of see how that friction is, see how it's all kind of deteriorated.
Yes.
If it was worn, it would, it's almost like a tire. You've got like, almost looks like treads. They would be all smooth, but you can see it's just got like a big chunk out of it right there and there.
Yeah.
It's just deteriorated from age, basically. Sometimes water damage will do that, but this thing's not had water in it. Everything's too nice and clean. I mean, you got a little bit of rest on the input shaft, but all the internals are super nice. Yeah, and these are, see, you can start to see some hot spots in the steels, but all these get replaced anyway on a rebuild, so we won't reuse any of that. We'll take this drum apart here in a minute, the retaining springs and stuff. Another big wear item on these 350s is this little pilot on the end of the input shaft. It goes into the rear output shaft. It'll be worn, it'll have real deep gouges, but this one's in really good shape too. So you're doing good so far as just doing a basic overhaul and some upgrades, but sometimes you have to go and replace those pieces as they're worn or not usable anymore. So, oh yeah, this one's gotten real hot. See how they're discolored?
Yes.
Yeah, that's your forward clutch. So that's on in. So probably what happened on this is the car sat. I see this a lot, and it did get low on fluid, and you tried to move it, and it was a little bit low, and that's probably what killed this.
Yep.
So.
Yep. That's exactly what happened on that.
Pretty typical.
Yeah. We tried to move it once, and it was low. Yes, that's exactly.
Yep. That's what did it. Yep. Pretty common though, really. That's why we need to get this thing sealed up so that doesn't happen again. Especially after we do all these good parts in it. So this goes in. You'll probably be able to see this other one a little bit better because it's lower, but.
If I get up high enough over you.
Yeah, we just take this little snap ring off here so this is your return spring, so that after it disengages the gear, it pushes the piston away and it unapplies the clutch. So. No, I think Gianna did that the other day. As long as you got all that cleaned up. You might sweep all the leaves and stuff out the door if you would. It stays there. I always like to, so then you know that goes with that. So here's some rubber seals that we'll replace too, and since they've been sitting in tranny fluid, they're still pretty pliable, but they'll get replaced because that lip edge will wear. So. So those are your pressure plates on top of those get reused as long as they're not, see, there's not really any hot spots on that, which is the nice thing about they're so thick that they can take a little more heat than these steels can. So this is like a wave plate that we will reuse in the intermediate clutch pack. And then the pressure plate on that. So there's just one more clutch pack over in that dude over there, but we'll go ahead and tear these down while we're here. There's a low reverse clutch pack clear in the back of that transmission. And it's probably going to look like your forward clutch pack because you probably tried to go backwards when it was low on fluid too, and it probably did the same thing to that clutch pack.
It will look the same, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised if it doesn't.
Me too.
Look the same.
Yeah.
I really will. Yeah, because after seeing that one, you said that one, I will be surprised if it doesn't.
The nice thing about these is those springs are made onto that plate. Some of these, they're loose. So then you got all these springs to, you know.
Oh, yeah, what a disaster that
So
would be.
you just kind of get used to it, but it's nice that those are like that. It makes it a lot easier to take apart and put back together. So we'll also be doing a lot of shift kits. It's integral to the shift kit, but this, see how there's two different cavities down here. There's like an outside, and then there's an inside, and it's separated by that center ring. We actually won't put that center seal back in, and we'll do what they call dual feed. So instead of just applying one or the other, it'll actually apply, but it'll hold more power in that direct clutch pack.
Okay, cool.
So we have to make a modification in the case is where we'll do it. Some people do it in the valve body or the separator plate, but we'll actually plug that hole right there.
Okay.
To do what we want to do there. So all right, let's get back over to that dude real quick. We can start taking this one. Can be rather fun sometimes. This clip here is really can be a booger to get out. So if I cuss, you'll have to bleep me out.
We'll play music over you.
I hope I make it look easy, but it's really usually not very easy to do. The thing is, you can't get these snap rings work really good on stuff, but you just can't get them down in there because of that ledge. So in the past, I've always just used these picks to get them out, and sometimes a newer, sharper pick works a little bit better, but they get worn as you use them. Just got to get behind that thing. I'll usually almost have it a couple times before I finally get it. Sometimes you just got to turn it a better way than see what you're doing. And sometimes those splines can get worn and not allow this. Turning at least means it's loose. Come on, baby. This thing is parking, won't move. Come on. No pressure, right?
That's the most challenging part right here.
Oh,
The
yeah.
whole darn thing.
So
Yeah.
when I first started doing transmissions, there was a guy that
It is.
was
It's
help-
so tiny.
it was-
To
yeah.
get a good close shot so the viewers can see. Look how freaking
Yeah.
tiny he has to get in there, you guys. It's freaking teeny tiny
pretty small.
what he's trying to get out of here. Look. Can you see it? Goodness gracious.
So this old man told me one time, he goes, when I first started doing these transmissions, he was kind of helping me. He goes, they call that the Jesus clip.
Jesus clip?
I said, well, why do they call it the Jesus clip? He goes, because he's the only one that can get it out without cussing.
I like
And
that.
I believe
That's
him.
Cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Jesus clip, y'all. I like it.
And sometimes we say his name, getting it out of there too.
I like it. Well, be with us, Jesus. We
That's
need you.
right. Yeah. There's probably some sort of snap ring pliers that are teeny tiny that you could probably maybe get in there, but I've just always done it this way. Sometimes you do it on the first try, and sometimes you fight it, just like what we're doing right now. You can see it start to move out there, but I just got to be able to get something behind it. Just not having any luck.
Sally likes to be a booger.
I might have to take a coffee break or something.
She likes to be a booger on stuff.
Is that her name, Sally?
Sally, that's her name. She likes to be a booger on stuff, so
yeah.
I can see her being a booger here.
It's definitely not anything far from normal. It's just, sometimes they're just not very fun. Sometimes you can stick one of these back behind and get it, but I can't do that today. It's on that shaft pretty good. Try this sharp one again. If you want to go grab a couple glide cores, you can. Okay. Because I'll probably wash those with this. Come on. Making me look silly now. Oh. Don't go down in there. Stay up there. I think I got it. As long as I don't let it get back down. Here we go.
All right.
They're a lot easier to put on than they are to take off. That's for sure. And then this, yeah, sometimes those splines hold up on that, they get worn, and that's probably why that clip came off. Oh, there we go. Cool. Sometimes they don't come off that easy even, so you just got thrust washers. This is your sun shell. There's some bushings in that we'll replace. There's your planetary ring gear. It has a bushing in it that we'll replace. And then, like I said, that other drum, we'll put that wider bushing in it. So this is your snap ring for your center support. And that's another thing we'll do is we'll upgrade this center support with a, you can use a later model center support out of like a 700R4 or 4L60E, and the sprag's a lot, it's got a wider race in it, but they're completely interchangeable. But we'll upgrade that. These rollers, just like that other sprag, they're wider in the newer transmission, so we'll just throw this in the trash, even though it's in good shape.
Yeah.
But it'll hold more.
Yes.
As well. So it's a really easy, cheap upgrade. So a lot of people look at this that never been in a transmission. Like, oh my gosh, where'd that come from? Looks like a piece of metal. It's all wadded up, but it actually has a function. It sits right here in the case, and it's called the anti-clunk spring. So like a lot of times when you go from forward to reverse or you're dropping it into gear, you hear that clunk.
Yeah.
And it kind of takes that out. It keeps that center support from rocking in the case. So this one looks really good because sometimes these case lugs will be really worn out and that center support is really hard to get out, but this 350 case looks excellent. So once again, you've got a really good,
we're doing good.
yeah, to rebuild. We're not gonna have to do a whole lot. So we are surprised.
That's
those
impressive. As
clutches
hard as
look
I've
really
been
good.
on it.
Yeah, the reverse clutches are not burnt like the forward clutches. So
I've been super hard on this car, so that's impressive, Grant. I've been really hard on this car.
Okay, we got to take the speedometer gear off the back, and then that will come out. So.
Okay. Switch your spots.
Let me flip this thing up. What's nice about this stand is you can turn it at different angles to get it where you want it.
Oh, you want to pan on this other side?
Oh, is it going?
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. So, go ahead and take it. Yeah, 5/8. This is just your rear mount, is all it is. Just getting it out of the way. You can see how deteriorated that is on the one side. So it'll just get replaced.
It's probably only been on there 100 years.
At least.
Yeah.
At least what? 55. No, I don't think this transmission's as old as the car. I think it's a newer build, or but I could be wrong. This is your modulator. It will get replaced as well. And this dude is pretty easy to take off. There's just a little clip. And it just slides off. That's all that holds your speedometer
Wow.
gear on. Was your speedometer correct? Or was it incorrect?
I mean, I think it's pretty accurate. For
Okay,
the most
I was gonna
part.
say, because
Yeah.
they make different gears, with different numbers of teeth,
Yeah.
and then you can calibrate that to your like gear ratio and your tire size. And so, like, if that would be a good time to correct it.
Yeah. But I could always upgrade that though, right?
It's easy to do in the car too.
Okay.
Yeah, because like obviously your speedometer, the driven gear comes out of the tail housing. You wouldn't even have to take anything apart. Now your driven gear, the one that we just took off, you could do it in the car, but you'd have to pull the drive shaft out and then this rear housing.
Okay.
So not a big deal, but it's be a lot easier to do it now if it needed corrected. But most people, if they're within 5 mile an hour, they don't really care.
I mean, it might
That's
be off.
probably
Maybe
probably all they were close from the factory anyway back then, you know.
Maybe 5.
But
yeah.
here, you might stand over there because I'm going to hit this.
Okay.
This is your governor. It is basically, it spins on the tail shaft so that it knows how fast you are going, not for your speedometer, but so that the transmission knows how fast it's going, and that helps to know when to shift. So that can be calibrated as well with these. There's little springs back in here. See, there's a green and an orange. So there's those different springs, or you see one has like not very many coils compared to this one, so they have different tensions. So that determines when this thing's going to shift. And then there's where they push on, you can see that little flap.
Yep.
That's a weight, and you can actually go in there and change those weights or cut material off of them to change your shift timing. So, but if you were pretty happy with your shift timing, as far as like
before, you know how I told you, that shifter, is off, and everything. But before, when it was shifting right, I was happy.
Right.
With it.
So so your shift timing is okay. So we won't mess with that at all. But once again, that's an easy thing to change even after the transmission's in the vehicle. You would just pull that cover off the side and pull that governor out to do your modifications. So pretty easy deal. And then you've got your modulator valve in here that we're going to take out. Which after?
The pipe wrench or the
Oh.
zip line. Yep.
Okay, so now we can take our output shaft out. Make a big mess, try not to. Put it back. And now we're going to take this reverse piston out of here. And I made this little tool to take these out as well.
And
You
this
gotta-
one too.
Yeah, you got this one's pretty easy to do as far as because the snap ring's a lot bigger. Just tighten this down. Usually you can just like that. See how much easier that one was.
Is he showing her another?
You can use this one. You should be. What do you need? 9/16?
Yeah, that and a half, I think.
Half's over here. So here's a 5/8. Oh, here we go. It's 13. It's the same as half.
Thank you.
Okay, so now take this out. Like I said, all this EMA stuff will get cleaned in the jet washer. Sometimes I can just, yep. And see, it's got a, this won't have like what they call a dual feed. So, oh yeah, usually you can grip that and squeeze that out. Hard as a rock. Hard as a rock. I'm gonna break that by trying to use a little screwdriver. Oh yeah, these are brittle too. See, that just broke in half when I shoved the screwdriver. Yeah, I'm surprised the reverse looked as good as it did. These seals are
Yes,
hard like
yes,
this.
Yes.
You know,
I
usually
know.
these things, when they get hard like this, they leak. They won't hold pressure, and then they'll burn up that clutch pack. So, I'd say she had a limited life left in it, but it'll all be good soon.
Jason shouldn't have a problem when he starts driving this car.
Right. Oh, kids, they can tear up some stuff
He'll be bringing it back to you, and they'll say, "Okay, you know what?
when they're doing donuts. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. We'll go ahead and tear the pump apart now. He's pretty nasty. It's just dirty on the outside. Yep, you're good. There's sealing rings here that we'll take apart too. Oh, those are a solid ring. These are, see, they come apart. They split. See, they got a little hook, and they'll hook on there. So, I actually like these Teflon rings, the solid rings. They're a little bit better to abuse. Because these metal rings, sometimes they'll break. So we'll go in here and just gotta cut them off. And then there's a little tool that we'll use to stretch the new ones on there. This is a surface that wears. You'll see where the gears have been running. You can kind of see a path where they've been. But there's not a, we've got a nice smooth surface there. And here's your pump gears that will get replaced as well. You see some wear on them as well, but the casting will get a lip on it in this crescent or out here, and it all feels really good, so won't be too bad at all. So you'll see these, there's bushings in this pump. There's one here, and then there's two back in here. They get replaced as well. So I've got this little cool tool that takes them out. It just threads into those. Press to press them out. What's your head?
Bada bing, bada bing.
Yep. Two more. Yeah. What you need? I can hand it to you. Oh. the other way. I think Kyle stole my tools.
Which one do you need?
Nothing, I got it. I got extra, yeah. Should. That black screwdriver.
Oh, it's right here. You got it.
I got one. I got one. Yeah. I got one.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. It's that narrow bushing I was talking about that we'll replace. Actually, we'll replace all of these. What you looking for now?
This little voice.
Yep, it's all yours. Some gears got some bushings in it. This has one little one in it. Okay, other than the pump bushing, all the bushings are out. Well, actually there's one more. It's right here. You know, I talked about that pilot on your input shaft. That's where it goes into right there. There's a bushing there. I'll probably do it later. I can do it in my lathe and just cut it out. It's easier because I don't have a tool that threads into there. So it's pretty easy to do on the lathe. That's just your front single. It actually looks really good, but it always gets replaced when we put converter in it, no matter what. I've got it. I've done a few of them. Those are just the ones I keep. Sometimes it's nice when you're pushing the new one in, you get it down a little ways, and then you can stack the same one on top, just to give it a little bit, so it doesn't sit, so it sits down a little bit. So that's a pretty common bushing there. I do a lot of those. In fact, if I got up there in the toolbox over there, I've got a whole stack of them. So anyway, that pretty much completes the tear down for the most part.
Awesome.
So now all this stuff just goes through the washer.
All right, you guys, that's a wrap on today's video. What did you all think of the amazing work that Grant did tearing that transmission out? If you were not impressed today with today's video, you are on the wrong channel, because he's got mad skills. Oh my goodness. I couldn't be more excited. I'm so stinking pumped up. The amount of work that he did just tearing this transmission out, the education that he put into training us all and educating us all on everything that went into tearing all of this out. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I am going back next week and we are going to film again the entire putting the entire thing together. So stay tuned. I'm super excited for that process as well. So I hope y'all enjoyed today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed meeting Grant again for the second time, and I hope everyone learned a lot because he's super knowledgeable. He's super passionate, and if you're local, you better be bringing your business to him because he's got mad skills. Everybody, support local businesses because it's so important. It's so very important. Shout out to Grant. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you for letting us film today, letting me be a part of that, and letting me follow you around your shop and be right up in there filming you and everything else. Thank you so much, Grant. And I couldn't be more excited for the Chevelle to be put back together. So we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.